Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, so today we have Leslie, and I've been looking forward to this one because Leslie has an amazing story, and I can't wait for her to share it with you. So, Leslie, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much, Nick, for having me on today. I've been looking forward to it as well. We were supposed to record a couple months ago, but
Yep,
life happens, right? It
it does.
happens. Yeah. So wow, there's so many things about myself. We always lead with titles, but let me just tell you a little bit about the personal story of me.
Okay.
I am a woman I've been married now almost 29 years to my husband, Ray. And currently I am coming to you from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. We decided a few years ago, back in 2020, actually, during the pandemic, that we were going to take our life a little bit on the road. So we have been living in different places, in Canada, the US, and in Mexico. This is our third time back to Mexico.
That's
So that's a
awesome.
little bit of the personal side. Yeah. And I love it. This place is magical. I loved it the first time, the second time, and I just thought, we've got to come back. Now, the professional side of me, I'm a self-care strategist and I work with female coaches, consultants, wellness experts. I want to help the woman who is the heart-centered, the giver, the person who is supporting other women or men in the self-development space, but they often forget to take care of themselves. So that's where I come in. I know that as a person who does this, that it can be really super easy for women, especially for the women I've talked to at least, that they don't know how to put themselves first. It's always been about everyone else. And especially if they're moms, it's always been about the kids or about their
that's for sure.
spouse, and their clients, but they forget to put themselves first. And I think when they learn that putting yourself first isn't actually a horrible thing to do, it actually is much better for them to do that. They show up as the best versions of themselves and they take care, when they take care of themselves, they show their kids that it's important to take care of themselves. So that's where I step in.
And this is so important, and I'm sure you say it yourself. It goes back to like when you're on an airplane and they tell you something happened, put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else. Because if you don't save yourself, you're no good to anybody else. And I've experienced this myself where I go. I don't take care of myself. And then my results or what I do for my clients, it goes downhill. And it's awful. But when I take the time for myself and recharge, I show up better for everyone. So I love what you do.
Yeah, it's important because we often don't realize that the way we show up in the world is what's being reflected from the inside out. So when we feel a certain way, if we're not feeling motivated, if we're not feeling energized, and we're then trying to serve someone, it's going to come across. Even if we don't think it is, it's going to come across. And so it's really, really important to take care of yourself. One of the things I now started to learn and recognize is a couple things, actually. The first one is I've talked a lot about burnout in these last year and a half. And I know that burnout is something that is on the rise. It spans across industries. And it doesn't matter the age that you are. You can be a young person in school all the way to someone who's an adult, someone even who is retired. And what I've found is that most people don't know that they're in burnout or they're heading for burnout because they're not, first of all, they're not looking to avoid it because they're not recognizing the signs of, say, I'm really exhausted. And they're saying, oh, it's just because I didn't sleep well last night. But those not sleeping well last night can add up. And over time, that can lead to burnout because you don't have the energy. Or other things like I'm just having an off day, like I'm not motivated. I just don't feel like doing something. Where is that coming from? A lot of the time is because our energy levels are low. And a lot of that is just a symptom of what's really going on. And it's really going digging deeper to figure that out. So that is one of the things that I recognize as burnout, is something that a lot of people it's not on their radar. And I'm trying to change that. The second part to that is joy. I feel that joy is a part of self-care, and just the simple act of something for yourself can make a lot of difference. Even for myself recently, I started feeling a little bit tired, and I started thinking, I was looking at what I've been doing, and I realized that work has really kind of consumed me. We're at the end of the year. There's some things that I'm working on. And I realized I'm not doing anything that's bringing me joy. So what can I do to bring joy into my life? That's so important, because then, just for the sake of doing that, just for no other reason, no other agenda, but just to feel good. And so, those were the couple of things that I have noticed, especially not just for myself, but for other people as well.
And I love that you brought up burnout, and you gave some examples, because I feel like a lot of us hear the term burnout and aren't really aware of what it actually is. And like you said, some people are experiencing burnout and not even know it. And once you can acknowledge it and realize, oh, hey, something's wrong, that's why I feel this way, that's why I'm losing sleep. Something isn't right, so what do I have to do to fix it? And I know I've experienced burnout a few times now in my life, especially, since I started my business. It's happened twice. And it's like, now, I can see it coming now. It's like, all right, we gotta take a break, recoup, and come back stronger the next time.
Yeah. And the thing is, so even though this is something that I talk about, it doesn't mean that I haven't still experienced it, because if you even know about it, you can still fall into the trap of ignoring the signs, because they're there.
Yeah.
The signs are there. For example, as I was saying, you might feel off because you're not sleeping well. Well, why aren't you sleeping well? Well, look at your habits. Maybe the habit is you work until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then you go into bed and you check your social media, and then you try to fall asleep. And that messes with your brain. You're trying to turn everything off, and you can't. And so then you have trouble getting to sleep. And by the time you do, it's only maybe a couple of hours, and then you wake up exhausted. So there's a pattern. So there's things that we do that we're not recognizing are leading to the symptoms that happen with burnout, which then leads us into full-on burnout. Another one that I had experienced just recently, and this is one I'd love to share with the audience, is that it's emotional burnout. And this was something that happened to me because just over a year ago, my youngest brother passed. And thank you. He had just gone on a trip. He went to the Philippines. He was going to visit his girlfriend, their family. He was going to stay for a few months. And within a week, he passed. So that was very quick. It was definitely hard on my family, my mom, especially, because she had just lost her eldest son, not even a year prior to that. So, this was a lot for her to deal with. Well, me being the person that I always have been this way my entire life, I am the one that would be the go-to person, the one that's the strong one in the family to lean on when you need support. And so I stepped into that. Yeah. So I stepped into that role. And for 8 months, I was ignoring myself. I was pouring everything into my mom, to my remaining brother. He's a couple of years younger than I am. And because he was going through some things, not only grieving the loss of two brothers, but also he had other things going on. And then I had some personal stuff for me directly. And I was taking all of this in. And for 8 months, I did not take care of me. And I didn't recognize that the reason why I started feeling low energy, not motivated, not really showing up the best that I could, not really wanting even to quit what I was doing. A lot of that was coming from not recognizing that I was pouring everything that I had into everyone else. And I emptied out, as they call the proverbial, filling your cup. Well, I
Yep.
poured it out. It was empty and I had nothing left to give
Mm-hmm.
back to me. So I hit rock bottom and I hit a wall, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a wall of my own doing. But one day I was supposed to go on a call just like this, and my internet and everything went out. And when I looked outside, the hydro people were outside changing the wires because they were old. So they were doing their repairs that they had been planning. But I felt like they were putting me out. I was like, how dare you? But then recognize that, okay, I have 3 hours now that I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And I started thinking about what was going on with me and realized there's been a lot been going on, and realizing as I was thinking about pouring into other people that I had been neglecting myself, and started asking myself questions and started really going back through like what happened and what was that process. And so because of that, I really took a deep dive and I started teaching around it, because I know how important this topic really is to help people, especially just around emotional burnout. Forget about the professional side of it. And that in itself can be really hard, which you've experienced it. But then the emotional side, when you're putting all into family or even to a work colleague, even a toxic relationship at work, it could be the same thing. It can emotionally drain you. And so when I really just started talking about it, because I realized this is something that's real that no one I saw was talking about. And I feel it's so important, because that's where, it can really make or break a person. And especially at this time of year, the holidays,
Oh yeah.
people get really down. They may have had deaths in the family, or they're just going through a hard time. And they might be that person too, like me. I'm the go-to person. And like you said, you are as well. And someone is going through something, and what do? You step up to help, and you forget about yourself. So I realize it's important that we need to take care of ourselves in that process. Like we can't just keep pouring it out and not taking care of ourselves to replenish our energy, and, so that our well-being is taken care of and we can show up the best we can.
Yep, I agree with you, and that's something that I've experienced myself too. It's like I put myself on the back burner. I don't worry about my feelings. I just I bite the bullet and I push through, and then all of a sudden one day it catches up to you, and you're not okay. Yeah. So it's always good to take care of yourself in the moment, let your emotions happen. That's one thing that, especially guys, I feel like we push our emotions down. We don't feel what we're going through, and one day we hit a wall, and it all comes out.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, it delays the actual healing. If you don't allow yourself to go through that emotion and feel it, and then figure out what's going on so that you can address it. But if you just let it be buried, you're right. It's not going to go away. It's just going to catch up to you, probably at a most inopportune time when you don't want it to catch up to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Always at the wrong time.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. So now when you're working with your clients and you're helping them, put themselves first, what are like 3 tips that you give?
Tips. So first of all, for me, self-care really isn't a one-size-fits-all model, meaning because everyone has a different lifestyle. I don't have children. My husband and I decided we weren't going to have children, but I know a lot of women do. So some of them I know have still young children in grade school. Some of them have adult children. Some of them have kids in high school. But it really just depends on what your lifestyle is. Maybe you work in corporate still, so that also factors in. But I think the tip that I would say, first and foremost, which I tell everyone this, is I feel that self-care should go on your calendar first. So that means finding things for yourself to do. For example, you might like to do I know someone I know, he loves gaming. So his self-care is taking time to play a favorite game. And that's to him relaxing. It's his time. That brings him joy. So it's finding what works for you. It doesn't have to be the same as everyone else. I don't know if you've heard of the Miracle Morning. They talk about, having six
Oh, I
different
love
things to
it.
do. Yeah, he's
It changed
amazing.
my life.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I love his story. It's incredible what he went through, but also that might not work for everyone.
No.
Someone might not have an hour, 60 minutes. Some might not have a couple hours. They may only have maybe 5 or 10 minutes first thing in the morning. It's just finding something to start your day, to support your day. So even if that's taking, 5 minutes to, sip your coffee, sitting without looking at social media and just relaxing. Maybe you're looking out your window. Maybe you have a beautiful view and you're able to do that. Or maybe just going for a quick walk. I walk my dog. We have rescued a dog here in Mexico. And so, I walk him several times a day now. It's amazing because it gets me away from the computer and away from work, which I love. It's like, a win-win for me and for him. But also just finding something that makes you feel good. So if you personally, I think so many people are hung up on what the morning routines and evening routines look like. For me, it's not about just having a morning routine or an evening routine. It's about what can you do throughout your day that supports you. So if you have 5 minutes in the morning, great. Find something that supports your start to the day. If you find you have like that nice half hour later on in the day and you want to add something in there, like going for a walk and listening to your podcast, listening to Nick's podcast and listening to people talking about their life story and just getting poured into and just relaxing and with no other reason except to get out and enjoy going for a walk. That's a self-care moment for you. Like there's so many different things that can be self-care moments. Just maybe it's at the end of your day, if you have children, it's making it non-negotiable to sit down at the dinner table and talk about the day. Ask them about their day. What did they learn? Is there something what they want to talk about? Building on those bonds. It's really about, I guess, just finding something that really lights you up. So the tip really is, my main tip is really put self-care on your calendar first. That's number one. Find things that bring you joy. Add that to your calendar. Maybe it could be, as an example, Mondays, you have 15 minutes in the morning. You like to meditate and journal. Great. But throughout the day, you make sure that you take your breaks and you're hydrating well and you're having a hard stop to your day. So you're not working to the wee hours of the morning, and you give yourself a social media break before you go to bed so that you're not, going through that, going down the rabbit hole. And then maybe later in the week, you have a yoga date with a friend. You're going to go do yoga in the middle of the day and you decide that's what you're going to do. It's on your calendar. The hard part, I think what happens, Nick, is that people will put stuff down for themselves. And especially this is hard for women that I know that I've talked to. They'll do that, but then it's holding themselves accountable to it. So the second tip would then be telling a friend, hey, I want to start taking better care of myself. So I'm starting to put things on my calendar meant just for me to fill my cup so that I feel good about me and I don't feel like I'm all just work and I'm pouring into other people and I'm not taking care of me. Having that friend that can kind of check in on you, say, hey, how was your week? I remember you told me you were going to go to yoga on Wednesday. How was it? Or maybe even go to yoga with that friend. But finding a way to like hold yourself accountable, because that's the hardest part. It's easy to put something on your calendar. To hold yourself accountable to it is going to be the hard part. And it's just really about flexing your habit muscle. When you learn to do that, just like brushing your teeth in the morning, just like taking a shower, just like washing your face before you go to bed, those are habits that started somewhere because, as you grew up, your parents probably told you brush your teeth, wash your face, go have a bath, you're having a bath or go have a shower. That's how you learn those habits. It's the same thing what we do in life. So if you want good habits in your life, you need to be able to, first of all, decide what they're going to be, have someone that you can say, hey, this is what I'm doing, so that they can check in on you, so that you can hold yourself accountable. And then they become habit because, again, let's say it was 2018 when I first started really journaling. And now we're 6 years later. I'm still doing that. I love to journal. I love meditating. I love going outside for walks. Podcasts are like, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. I love
Same.
self-development, things, what became what became hard in the beginning became a habit for me to gravitate towards.
Yep. And one thing about habits that I learned is it's good to give yourself a reward. When you're trying to build that muscle, like celebrate your wins. Celebrate that you did that for yourself.
Yeah,
And that's just gonna
absolutely.
improve your mood and your happiness just in itself.
Yeah, well, and that leads me to the last one, which was really about having that gratitude practice because,
Yep.
It's really super easy to have a task list,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be big goals, it could be small goals, but we tend to go through our lists, our to-do lists, and we check it off and then we
Mm-hmm.
move on. And so if we meet a challenge similar to that again, we've forgotten how we were able to overcome it before or something similar. So when you can actually anchor in those moments by being grateful, like today, maybe it was, I'm not nervous, but say I was nervous to come on up and speak to you today. I could at the end of the day say, you know what, that went really great. It wasn't, Nick made it really comfortable for me. I didn't feel, worried about the conversation was flowing well. And I can say that was great. So now I can do more of those. That's kind of like how I overcame the fear of a little bit. I had a fear of going live because, someone gave me a challenge back in 2019 to go live for 30 days on Facebook. I loved it so much. I just kept going and I went live for a whole year every day and it was
Wow, that's
fun,
awesome. Mm-hmm.
and then I started to pare it back a little bit because I thought, well, that's a little bit too much. I'm not really giving myself time to do other
Mm-hmm.
things. But I do love going live. I love doing podcasts. I love doing live videos. I love everything about being in front of the camera. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me is fun. But in the
Yep.
beginning, it wasn't.
Oh, I'm
So
right there with you.
yeah. So it's just
Oh, yeah.
finding something to be grateful for it. So even if it's another thing would be, I know some people have a hard time, sending emails to people because they're afraid the tone might not come across, the message might not come across. Well, maybe today is the day where you say, you know what, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to read my email over. I'm going to read it as if I'm receiving it. Does it sound the way I would like it to sound? And then I'm going to press send. And then you do. And you're like, okay, that was great. And then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's not about me. It's like, don't be afraid. And then when you get the response, you can be like, oh, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Just
Yep.
little things like that we take for granted,
Mm-hmm.
that we just do so many things in life. We take for granted. We don't celebrate. We don't allow ourselves to be joyful over just the smallest of things. Like, as I said,
Yeah.
doing, sending the email, or maybe it's like, I'm not going to look at social media after 8 p.m. at night. That could be
Mm-hmm.
something you celebrate, something that you used
Mm-hmm.
to do before you went to bed. You would scroll right up until you go to bed. Well, now you have a cutoff time at 8 p.m. and you're like, okay, it might be a little bit of withdrawal for a couple of nights, but your brain and your body, your mind, you will be thanking you for it because you'll get a better night's sleep because you're not
Yep.
allowing your brain to have that, they call it monkey mind, where it's constantly
Yep.
thinking about like, what did I just.
This episode of the Infinite Abilities podcast is brought to you by the one and only Infinite Toolbox, where just like all other toolboxes, we will get the job done, guaranteed. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to save time, boost revenue, or automate your processes, Infinite Toolbox has got you covered. With powerful tools designed to drive leads, expand your reach, and gain your industry secrets, we help you work smarter, not harder. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Visit us at infinitetoolbox.com. That's infinitetoolbox.com, and discover how infinite your potential really is.
Learn,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Yep. That's awesome. And then, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on, Facebook. Those are really the two main platforms that I'm on. I do have my my YouTube, which is Her Extraordinary Life by Design. My website is the same. My business's name is the same. I also have a podcast. So if you want to check out the Women's Empowerment Podcast, Her Extraordinary Life by Design, come and check it out. But yeah,
I was
reach
just
out to
going to
me.
ask about that.
Yeah, reach out to me.
Yeah, can you give us a quick little, like, what is your podcast about? Because I would love my listeners to go over and check out yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been interviewing women from around the globe. I mean, I'm finishing up season 2, going to be starting season 3 in January, which is
Awesome.
amazing. Yeah. I've had some incredible guests. I have a great lineup coming up. But what I love about my podcast is it was a passion project for me. I really love to support other people, and that's just my nature. And I wanted to support women in a way where it was a place where I could bring other women from who are, we often feel like someone's really successful that, they're out of our league. Well, we're all human beings. So I've just been bringing women onto the show to be able to pour into women around the world to say, you know what, this is what I've done. This is my life story. This is what I do, make the impact that I'm making on my community. And it's a way for other women to say, oh, I really love what this person is doing and I want to connect with her. And so on my podcast, in the show notes, I have all of their links so that if someone wants to reach out to them directly, they don't have to go far. They can just click on the link and off they go, and they can, meet up with that person virtually, most likely. But at least they have the way of doing that. But also they're learning that if someone else can do it, so can they. I think a lot of the time we feel like we're alone and our lives are just, especially if we're going through something, we think, oh no, I couldn't possibly have this lifestyle for myself. And then they listen to someone who went through losing her business to now she's, successful in life because she allowed herself to go through the process. It was a lifestyle, and she shares that. And it shows people the human side of a person on the other side of the business, because most of the time it's on social media, right? You don't see a person's face. You see their profile picture, you see the posts that they put up, but you don't know the human side of them. And so to me, which is why I love what you're doing, is you're bringing the human side of a person to your audience to say, these are the people I'm bringing for you to learn from and possibly connect with. And at least now you can put a voice to the name. And that's kind of like what I wanted my podcast to be. So to be that inspiration to other women to support each other. Because growing up in my generation, I grew up in a generation where it was mostly, we would talk about supporting each other, but when it came to something that we wanted, that really was off the table. So we really didn't support each other. So I wanted to change that through the narrative through my podcast.
That's amazing. I love what your podcast is about. I love what you're doing with it. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then my slogan is, your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, I love that. Wow, your abilities are infinite. That's something that I think a lot of people always look to well, I wouldn't say always, but I would say a lot of the time when we're going through some of the negative things of life, we're not looking at the possibilities. I really love to focus on solutions rather than the obstacles. So for me, when you say to be limitless, it means that there's so much potential. And so when you allow yourself to be open to that potential, doors open and opportunities come your way that you weren't expecting when you're open to that. And being able to go through a door and say, you know what, I don't know what's on the other side of that door. I don't know how it's going to work out, but being open to doing it can then lead to something else that you didn't even know. So we all have plans, right? As an example, We plan our lives out. I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners have already planned out what they want 2025 to look like. And so we all have those plans, but I always say, have the plan, but be open that you might pivot, and that pivot might take you down a road that's way better than what you could ever have imagined. So that to me is that limitless possibilities.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed this, and I know the listeners are going to also.
Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Of course. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me here, the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.